So, the translations are out from My Hero Academia, Manga Chapter 305, and if you thought this chapter was going to be nothing but talking and talking and talking, yeah, you're right. Yeah, there's a whole lot of dialogue in this chapter, but we still get a little bit more reveals and potentially a little bit more information about whether or not we're going to be staying in this world for a while. So, with that out the way, let's get right into the review after this intro. Hit it! Hey guys, how's it going? It is your boy, Big Blue Drew 97 here, coming at you with another manga review for My Hero Academia, Manga Chapter 305, titled Midoriya Izuku and Shigaraki Tomura. And yes, with that title in mind, in contrast to last chapter, we're going to be mainly focusing on Izuku and Tomura. And basically, we're going to be talking about whether or not Izuku can actually kill Shigaraki. Spoilers, if you know the type of person that Deku is, you already know the answer to it. But we kind of get more understanding of like how he's viewing the world and how he views Shigaraki, Tomura, and how he views to deal with him, as well as we get kind of the views of the previous users of One for All and how they were involved in All for One and his scheme to try to take One for All. And we even get a little bit more information about One for All and how it truly passes on to another individual. And before we get more into the review, I'd like to ask you, if you haven't done so, and to subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you like these type of contents, if you like my Hero Academia reviews, my reactions, spoiler videos, leave a like down below, as well as subscribe to my YouTube channel, as well as hitting that little notification button right there. And without the way, let's get right into the review. So, we start off the review with Nanashimura basically asking a 16-year-old boy to kill her grandson. Or specifically, if he can kill her grandson. Yeah, when it comes to the first part of this chapter, basically we have Nanashimura basically asking Deku, was like, hey, can you kill my grandson? I'm not saying that you will, I'm just saying, can you? And that's basically the gist of like what she and the first user are basically going to be talking about. They're coming to the realization that, yeah, Deku, we know that you have like this inkling of doubt inside of you. Yeah, because when All for One entered the Vestige world, we know that you felt something in Shigaraki, but we also felt what you felt about Shigaraki. And yeah, we don't think that he's the type of person that needs to be saved. So we basically get a better understanding of like how the previous users of One for All feel about whether or not Deku can or will be able to kill Shigaraki. Nana says that, yeah, we felt them, and we know that you basically like feel that pain, but there's a problem, and this is something that Banjo brings up. Is like, yeah, there's a problem with that. Like, kid, we understand, like, you're that type of person, but you said that you felt like pain inside of him, and you felt like he wanted saving. From what we saw in those eyes, yeah, no, he had nothing but hatred. And even the first user, One for All's brother, chimes in and is like, yeah, it's nothing but hatred, but it's not really the boy's fault. Yeah, that's what All for One did. Like, he made sure that this kid was filled with hatred throughout his entire body. So we just get them understanding more and more about this, and how that One for All is trying to be taken by All for One, and that Shigaraki is All for One's next attempt. And this leads into more understanding about both the, if I remember correctly, the 5th and 6th user, and how All for One tried to take One for All from them. So, we basically have Banjo and the 6th user. We don't have his name, at least within this translation. Potentially his name was in, based off of like some initial like spoilers and raw scans. But from what we have with here, we just have Banjo basically refer to him as his Kohai, which is very interesting because in the last chapter, he was supposed to refer to, the 6th user referred to as Banjo as his senpai. So they still have this type of dynamic, which is cool, of Kohai senpai, of like teacher and student. But Banjo brings up this one piece of information that we did not know prior to this chapter, and that was that One for All was attempted to be taken from him and the 6th user by All for One. So basically, All for One already tried to take One for All twice. one from Banjo, and one from the 6 user. And that's very interesting. And this kind of ties into the next few panels where basically we're reconfirmed and resubmitted into the story that, yeah, All for One tried to take One for All, but One for All is a quirk that cannot be taken. It can only be passed. And this just cements in this idea. They basically chime in once again that, yeah, All for One cannot be taken if the user has a strong will, which something else that they confirm is that they've been seeking people that have a strong will, because if they have a strong will, they're able to keep One for All inside of them and won't be able to have it taken, which is very interesting. So it means that even though, yeah, they were like just passing it on and just passing it on to individuals, they did have somewhat of a criteria. It's like, you must at the very least be strong-willed to be able to like contain One for All, to basically allow for One for All to continue to have that strong-willedness to not be taken. So yeah, we saw that in not last chapter, but we saw that when One for All was attempted to be taken once, we thought that it was a fluke, that it could have been a fluke, and that even All for One basically said like, oh man, you're not strong enough, your hatred isn't strong enough yet to take All for One, but soon it will be. We're all thinking like, oh, okay, so One for All can be taken by anyone then, but in actuality, no, it can only be taken if the opponent's will is stronger than One for All. And because One for All's purpose at first was to fight All for One could never take the quirk because his will could never overshadow the will of One for All, which is to make sure that it wasn't taken by All for One. But now we get that All for One is trying to use Shigaraki to do it and trying to fester his hatred to suppress and overcome the will of One for All so that he can finally get it. So yeah, All for One is trying to use Shigaraki as a puppet to take One for All. But unfortunately for him, Shigaraki, Tomura, isn't the type of person that wants to be controlled. And they even allude to the idea that, oh yeah, All for One has taken over that child's body, has taken over his will, so like there's no real will or way to go back. But we as the readers know that that's not the case, that Shigaraki is still fighting off All for One, and this may lead into the end of the series, or towards the end of the series, where All for One thinks that, oh yeah, I've fully controlled Shigaraki, he's all mine, now I will take One for All. One for All. Shiggy, what are you doing? And he's like, I'm not following your orders, screw you. It may lead to a point where like All for One thinks that he's like one, and he tries to take One for All once again, and he fails because even though Shigaraki's will and his hatred is so strong, he may aim that hatred towards All for One himself. So that this could be like the seeds being planted for that. But like I said, it's very cool to get more confirmation that, yeah, One for All can't be taken away. And this kind of explains something that happens in My Hero Academia Heroes Rising, where, spoilers if you haven't seen that movie, Deku gives Bakugo One for All, but at the end of the series, One for All immediately gets passed over to Deku, and the reasoning why is because it cannot be taken, and that Deku, even though he gave it to Bakugo, his will, from what I can speculate, wasn't like in it. Like he didn't really want to give it to Bakugo, but he's like, yo, I believe this is the only situation. I don't want to do it, but I think that I have to. So that kind of shows that One for All has a will of its own. It's like, you could say that you want to do it and not, it's very complicated. But yeah, it kind of like explains that away, meaning that potentially that the movies are within the canon. So yeah. Yeah, that's basically all I really want to say about that for now. But from here, we're cutting more over to Nana Shimura and her explaining that, yeah, we understand that you want to save Tomura, but you have to realize that it's a possibility that you won't be able to. And she basically says that, yeah, there are people out there that like you may think can be saved, but then there are people out there that just don't want to be saved, or they can't be saved, that they're actions that they've done are so unforgivable that they cannot be saved at all. And if Tomura or that thing becomes complete, there may be no way of stopping him. He may be the manifestation of evil. He may not be able to be rehabilitated. And when that happens, are you able to heal him? Are you able to defeat him at all costs? If you cannot save him, will you be able to kill him? And that's what she tells this 16-year-old boy. And you know what? Deku has a response to it. It's a very Deku response. It's very generic to like most anime protagonists, but it's very relevant for Deku's case because to sum up what Deku says, it's basically this. I saw that Shigaraki was a crying child. I saw that he needed to eat saving. One for all, it's not meant for killing. It's meant for saving. I can sense inside of him that he wants help. And it's thanks to All Might and his inspiration that I am able to save him. This new power of All for One isn't meant for killing because of All Might, because of all of you. You have made it into a quirk that is meant to be saved. I've lost a lot of people. A lot of people have been hurt. A lot of people have been killed. But thanks to this power, I now have the ability to save them. And I plan on saving Shigaraki too. It's very generic, very like Deku-like. Yeah, it's very basic, very generic, but it's very Deku. And you know what? It kind of makes sense. When it comes to like him wanting to save people and whatnot, that makes a whole lot of sense because if you remember correctly, the first moment where we get the kind of the confirmation that Deku wants to be a hero is where he saw All Might saving a lot of people. And to get more in depthly in what he says that one for all is just a quirk to save people. It isn't meant to kill. It's thanks to All Might, him saving a whole lot of people that cultivated it, but as well as like because of y'all, because of the previous predecessors, like y'all risked y'all lives to try and save people. So yeah, you say that I should probably kill him, but deep inside, like when our consciousness were melding, when Shigaraki came into the world, we kind of give this confirmation of when Shigaraki came into the vestige world, Deku was able to see inside of Shigaraki and was able to see like the crying child holding his dog, and that's just this very cool panel of just both Shigaraki and Deku as children, and how like he says like, I saw this kid, I want to rescue this kid. He looks like he's asking for saving. And something else that I didn't bring up, and I'm going to talk about a little bit more in depthly now, is that within his speech he talks about how there are possibly heroes that he fought against that had their like ideal set in stone, where we get images of Overhaul, Muscular, as well as with who had like their ideas like set in stone, but then he brings up this idea of like, yeah, I fought them, but what if I learned more about their past? What if I learned about why and how they became villains? Then maybe those fights could have turned out differently, where we then see Gentle Criminal and La Brava, showing that that fight had an impact on Deku. At that moment he realized that, yeah, villains are people too, and if I had just known like what those other people went through, maybe the fights could have been different. Maybe I didn't have to literally beat them half to death. Maybe I could have done something different. And that's what he's feeling with Shigaraki. He sees that this child is crying inside of Shigaraki. He sees that this kid is going through pain, and that if he could understand it and eventually like connect with him, that maybe he doesn't have to kill him. Maybe and he's like, he may not know. What's even amazing is that Deku's like, well, I may not even know that. Like there may come a point where it's like, I may have to like fight him. Like I'm going to have to fight him, but I'm going to try to save him. And that's just very interesting because it shows like the ideas of what heroes do. Heroes aren't made to like kill. They're meant to fight the villains and break their will to continue. Tying in something that Fatgum says, that the hero's only way of winning is to break down the will of the villains to continue to fight. And in Shigaraki's case, what Deku would have to do to win is break down that hatred around his heart so that it can be more opened, so that he doesn't have to rely on one for all, or should I say all for one anymore, and then they will disappear. And that's just a Deku thing to say. And because of his speech, at the very least, like most of the predecessors are like, yeah, I understand, and we'll follow you on your journey. And then after this, Nadashimura just breaks down and she apologizes that she's sorry that she had to like put this burden on him, that she's sorry that she had to test him. Because guess what? This was all a test. They just wanted to get like his resolve. Because here's the thing, like I said, one for all can't be taken unless the user has determination and has a strong will. And for what they saw with Deku, they saw that, yeah, you want to just save Shigaraki, can you kill him? He's like, I don't want to kill him, I want to save him. So we see that his determination is just as strong as all the previous users, even to a point where he was like mumbling through the black shadows, but as he talked about his speech and how he talked about how he wanted to save, we saw that his mouth formed and the rest of his body did form. Unfortunately, it still reverted back to that black shadowy vestige, but it shows that his determination and his like fortitude is extremely strong to the point where like he goes from not being able to talk to fully formed in this world just by talking about how he wants to save people. And it's so great because we also get a moment of like All Might within like this flaming form just shed a single tear, as well as like the first user trying to comfort him. Oh my gosh, I love the first user in this chapter because he's like just trying to comfort everyone. Like he comforts Nana when she's crying, he comforts All Might when he's crying. It's so great. And like what is even more amazing is that Nana Tomura, as she's like apologizing for like, I'm so sorry, I shouldn't have put this test on you, but she's also thinking that, oh man, Sora, Hiko, we made the wrong decision, but here our successor is determined, as she's crying. And what's very interesting about this translation, and if it's accurate, Hiko is the first name of Gran Torino. And what's very interesting is that when it comes to like the Japanese culture, from what I'm understanding and what I've like seen, you don't like refer to people by their first name. You mainly refer to them as their family name, which would be their last name. And the fact that she refers to him as by his first name shows that they have a connection. And if she says that we made the wrong choice, I saw a video once of someone basically saying that Gran Torino could be the grandfather of Toshinori, of Tomura. So they could have fucked. I'm just saying that could be a possibility. They could have fucked and then made her son. So, you know, it's a possibility based off this and some stuff that we saw later. It is a strong possibility that they fucked. So yeah, we get to the end of the chapter where we basically get the first user, like after he comforted Nana, he basically just turns to the other two in the back and it's like, hey, about you guys back there, why don't you chime in? Why don't we give this kid a little bit of help about the rest of the quirks? Don't you think, guys? Chapter ends. As we see one of the users, I think the second user, who's like facing the wall, he kind of like either he slightly turns or we get like a different angle of his eye. Chapter ends. I'm gonna be honest, I thought this was gonna end this chapter. I thought we weren't gonna get more about One for All in this chapter. I was wrong. I was very wrong. And I feel great about that. Because from what we get with this last panel, we're possibly going to get more information about All for One. Not All for One. We're going to get more information about One for All and possibly the other quirks of the previous users. And I know with the spoiler video, there was a translation about how like these previous predecessors may not approve of Deku. Maybe. But from what we have with this translation, that's just not the case. Potentially, they may turn around on it now, or it may be some future arc where it's like, okay, now we accept you as the next user of One for All. We just don't know. But at the very least, potentially, they're planning on trying to get them to reveal the potential quirks that they have. And that's going to be very interesting. So potentially next chapter, this vestige world arc or mini arc could end next chapter, and Deku just wakes back up 2 days later, or even like further. Because here's the thing, like we know that he's having this conversation inside of One for All, but we don't know when it's occurring. It could have started like at the beginning of his coma, as soon as he got into a coma, or it could be like a few weeks later, or even like a month later. He's like, oh, I'm awake, what's going on? Oh, it's been a month? Oh no, what's happened? So we don't know how long he's been in here and like over what time frame, but most likely next chapter we're going to continue in the vestige world. We're probably going to get more information about the other quirks of One for All. We may even get the reveal of who the sixth user is, because like I said, from this translations we don't know his actual name, but from the spoilers his name was like N, which translated as smoke, meaning that he could potentially get a smoke quirk. We just don't know with that concretely. When the official translations come out, we may get it then, and I may make a video about that. But yeah, this is pretty much all that I can really say about the chapter. This was a very enjoyable chapter. We got to see Deku's resolve, and we get to see that he has learned from his previous battles to a point where, yeah, he understands that there may be some people that cannot be saved, but specifically with Shigaraki, he sees, yeah, this person can be saved, and if he can be saved, I'm going to save it with One for All, because that's what One for All does. It saves people. So we get his confirmation. Even we got like even some like kind of disapproval in a sense, or like conflict. That's it. Conflict with the previous users who are like looking at this. It's like, yo, are you sure you can even save him? He could be a monster. He's done a lot of bad things. Can you kill him? And they approve of like his type of resolve. At the very least, they may not like completely agree with his decision to save Shigaraki, but at least they see that he does have the determination and the drive needed for all users of One for All to prevent it from being stolen. I think that's probably what they were looking for. They weren't looking for, oh yeah, you need to kill Shigaraki. No, they were looking for, okay, are you set in your stone with your resolve to save him? Okay, you are? Alright, we'll follow you. One for All won't be taken from you then. So yeah, that was very cool. We got to see that, as well as like just getting a little bit more information about how One for All cannot be taken, as well as how All for One tried to take it a few times. That's just more like building upon the lore of One for All and All for One. Now, if we can only get All for One's name, I know his name is Shigaraki, but you have Tomura, who we've been calling Shigaraki. The fact that he has the name Shiggy. We need their names. We need their names. Hirotoshi, please give us All for One's name so we stop calling him All for One. But yeah, that's all I really have to say about this video. Hopefully you liked it. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully you enjoyed this chapter. If you did, leave your thoughts down below. What do you think is going to happen next chapter? Do you think that we're going to still stay in the Vestige world for a whole nother chapter? Do you think it's going to be half the chapter? Do you even think that the next chapter is going to be focused on Deku at all? Do you think that we'll cut over to Shigaraki and what he's thinking in his All for One, One for All mind? We're just going to have to wait to see, because we are not on break. So yeah, like the video if you liked it, dislike it if you did dislike it, subscribe to my YouTube channel, do all the cool jazz, and hopefully I'll be able to catch you in the next video. Goodbye.